paper. We're going to start with a drawing activity today. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your paper and turn it this way. And then we're going to fold it in half, like so. And then we're going to draw on one side. So when you open it up, it'll look like this. That good? So what we're going to do is, I'd like everyone, once they get their paper, to take a look around. Look outside the pavilion and draw what you see. What you see going on here in Schmeeckle today. So you can take a few minutes, show you what we're drawing. So look around, see what we're seeing. You can draw the fire. Ooh.
You can.
Is there anything else that you want to draw?
Do you want some green buds on the trees? You know, and those are brown. For a little bit, take that and do it with green. You see the cherries, my girl. Who you're imagining. These are good.
Alright, so I'd like to say hello to everybody. My name is Maddie, and I'd like to look at everyone's drawings. Did anyone want to share their drawing? Oh, we got some stuff back there. Ooh, nice, nice. Got a tree, nice. Well, I drew a purple deer, because, like, there's clearly a purple deer here somewhere in Schmeeckle. We just have to find it, baby. So, I'd like everyone to unfold their drawing. Notice how there's a whole bunch of white space left at the bottom. I'd like everyone to take a minute to look at the ground, look around, and notice how there's a whole other world right below our feet. So, like I said, my name is Maddie. I'm an environmental science student here at UWSP, and today we're going to learn a little bit about that world underneath our feet. We're going to learn about soil. So, in order for us to get a better idea of soil, I have an interesting question. Does anyone know of anything that has layers? Doesn't have to be related to nature. What are you thinking? There you go. So something that I think about is cake. Does anyone here like cake? Yeah? Well, we know that cake has layers, but did you know that soil also has layers? Does this kind of look like a cake to us?
Hey, I gotta tell you something.
Yeah?
I saw that an avocado is a volcano. Part of it is like the crust. Part of it is like the rock, and then
So we're going to talk a little about the layers of soil to start with. And in order to kind of get a better understanding of that, I have this sentence for us to remember here. So it's only awesome earthworms break cool rocks. Can we say this together? So it's only awesome earthworms break cool rocks. It's kind of a silly sentence, but it goes back to our layers of soil. So our top layer is called the O layer, which is our only layer. So this is where you're only going to find leaf litter and like plants and decaying material. So you know how it's starting to be spring and we had our leaves fall to the ground? Well, those leaves are known as leaf litter. That's part of our O layer, so the only layer. So next we've got our A layer, which in my sentence I call our awesome layer. Does anyone garden? You garden? Yeah, so when you plant a plant, you typically dig a little hole, right? Push the soil aside and put your plant in. Well, that layer that you're working with is called the A layer. I call it the awesome layer because we need it to grow our plants. So next time you're out gardening, remember the A layer, okay? So then we've got our E layer, which is not on this drawing because in some cases it's not present in soil, but I do have another image that has it. So that's this band, kind of this lighter band right here. See that? Right above this orange one.
These are
Yeah, a
some
little
rocks.
lighter there. Yeah. Lighter. Lighter. Oh. So this is where, when it rains, some of that material from above comes through the soil and gets stuck. So it can't go anywhere because it's too small, so it gets stuck there. And I decided to call it our earthworm layer because it's super thin. Has anyone ever seen an earthworm? How they're long and skinny and they're wiggly? So I call this the earthworm layer because it looks kind of like an earthworm. So our next layer is our B layer, which is our break layer. This is called our subsoil layer. It's kind of just a mixture of what we're going to find above. So any of that O layer, A layer, and that E layer. And then next we have cool. So this is our parent material layer, which is down here. We won't get to see any of that today because we can't dig that deep. But how I remember this is I think my parents are pretty cool. Do you think your parents are cool?
Yeah.
Yeah? Do you think your parents are cool? Yeah? So that's how you can remember this because it's the cool layer. And I think my parents are pretty cool. So it's the parent material. It's the core of what the soil is made of. And then our last layer is rocks. This one is pretty straightforward. It's our bedrock layer. It's basically what it sounds like, rock material. So that's how, see how it's all solid in this image? It's just rocks. So I want us to remember only awesome earthworms break cool rocks. Does anyone have any questions about that? What's your question? It's got to be a question. Does it end in a question mark? You can think about it. Maybe if it still fits in, we can touch on it at our next stop. Because we got a bit of a walk that we got to do next. And that'll kind of help you to maybe think about that. So we're about to get started on our walk. And as we do so, I want us to take a look at this picture. I want us to think of some words that describe this picture and how this might have anything to do with soil. So on our way out, if you could drop your crayons in the bag, you can keep your picture tuck it away in your pocket. We might touch base on that later, but you can just pop them in the bag and then we're going to head out. We were out walking. Did anyone think of any words to describe this picture?
Group of people.
Group of people.
Variety.
Variety.
Big family.
Yeah.
Diversity.
Yep. These are all some good words. Did you know that these words could also describe right below our feet? So, soil is made up of a whole new community filled with these little guys. Got a whole lot of different little guys. So we have bacteria. We would not be able to see these with our eyes. We'd have to get a thing called a microscope to look at them. We have things like fungi. Does anyone know what another word for a fungi is? Mushrooms, yeah. And then what about these? Do you know what these are?
Worm.
Worms, yeah, we got worms under there too. There's a whole community right below our feet. Did you know that there are 7 billion people in the world? It's a lot of people. But soil is even more crowded. Do you see this? How much I have in here? This is a teaspoon. In a teaspoon, you can find 8 to 15 tons of these guys. Does anyone know how big that is? How much that is? That's a big number. But has anyone ever seen an elephant before?
I have.
Yeah, we've all seen an elephant. Did you know that there would be 2 to 3 elephants in this bag? An elephant is about 5 tons, so we got about 2 to 3 elephants in here. That's all these guys. So that's how that picture can relate to this. Soil is such a diverse community. There's a lot of different stuff in there. But why do we need these guys? Well, has anyone ever seen this before? Do we know what this is?
A recycling truck?
A recycling truck. How do you think these guys are recycling trucks? Well, another word for these are decomposers. How are they a recycling truck? Well, we all know that a recycling truck comes to our house and they pick up our paper, our milk cartons, our water bottles.
And maybe a cardboard box?
Our cardboard boxes, yeah. Well, these guys, they pick up all of this stuff. The leaves, the branches, the stuff that's decaying and dead on the ground. They pick those guys up, they break it down, and they turn it into food for the plants. Just like how our recycling truck comes to our house or wherever we live, picks up our recyclables, and takes it away to someplace else. So I bet you didn't know that right underneath our feet was a whole lot of recycling trucks. They're taking care of us and putting new stuff into the ground so we can have lots of plants that I'm sure a lot of us drew on our drawings. So I'd like us to take a minute to think back to our layers. Does anyone have any idea how this could help us to see those layers? Yeah?
You could stick it down, and if you stuck it down really deep, then maybe you could see the layers of dirt if it was really muddy.
Exactly. Well, so we're going to do that. We're going to kind of brush away some of this top stuff here. We're going to push it down. Give it a good old twist. So that way it all kind of compacts into that tube. Pull it out. That's that gardening layer right on the top there. So now, let's get a better idea of what our soil feels like. Soil comes in 3 main types. You have your sand, your clay, and your loam. And that can be important for us to know if for the big reason being if you're a gardener or if you're building a house, to know what your soil's makeup is, so that way you know how to work with it. So we're gonna all take about, I don't know, a grape size amount of soil in our hand. Stick in the bag, and this soil is all from this location. I went out and I grabbed some ahead of time so that way we had some, made sure we had enough. You want to grab a great sized handful? That's a pretty big grape.
We'll share. We'll share. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Robbie.
Max, I'll hold yours for you, okay?
I don't want my hands dirty.
I'll hold it for you.
Dirt.
You're good. Yep.
Obviously, you've not been on a farm.
Robbie would love to live on a farm.
You really have to eat a ton of this before you get to my age. It doesn't hurt you. You will eat a lot of dirt, you just don't know it.
Tell him what you eat dirt on. What are some things that you might eat dirt on?
So I'd like everyone to take a look at that.
Yeah, when you
What
put leaves.
color would you call it?
What color is this? So we go, Robbie.
That's brown.
Brown?
It's not a crayon.
I don't know. There's kind of some reds in there, maybe some oranges. What do you think?
Think about what's in our sandbox.
Do you think it's darker than your sandbox color?
It might be clay.
Maybe. Guess we're gonna have to find out. So what color would you call this? If someone had asked you what color it was, what would you say?
I would say tan.
Tan?
Reddish
But if I add on my
Reddish
fingernails,
brown.
Reddish brown? Just brown?
Brown with a hint of salmon.
Well, so if we want to call it brown, see, I would call this up here more of a brown. So how would you differentiate? How would you say these two are different?
they're tan.
This you'd say is more tan?
More red.
Yeah. So they're different. So now let's figure out what it feels like. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get it wet, and I have some water. We're gonna get it a little wet. Oops, that's too wet. And we're gonna make a ball with it. If it feels gritty, we have sand. If it feels smooth or slimy, we have clay. We have mud. A bit of water. Want some water? Squish it around.
Does it feel sandy or gluey? Squish it like this. Tricky one, I feel both. Max was having a hard time waiting, so he's just going for a walk with Dad.
You really can't get lost out here. They won't get lost.
Yeah, that's okay. You're just supposed to, you don't have to make a ball anymore. Now you're supposed to roll it around. Does it feel sandy or slimy?
So what do we think? Is it gritty or slimy?
It is clay sand.
Did you say play sand?
Clay sand.
Clay sand. Are you feeling a little bit of slime in there? A little bit of slickness to it?
It just feels like mud.
Feels like mud? How would you describe it? If someone said, what does it feel like? Feel like bumpy like the rocks down here? Or does it feel more like soft like the leaves?
Like the leaves.
Think it's soft like the leaves?
Yeah.
What else?
A little like
Sandpaper? Feels like sandpaper? A little bit of rock.
My child is not related to me, so I can't teach the things I teach.
Yeah, so I would consider this sandy, but there's a little bit of a slickness to it. Does anyone know why that might be? Does anyone know what we walked through to get here? Have a picture to help us?
marshes.
Yeah, like a wetland or a marsh. So that kind of gives it that extra little slimy feel to it because we have a lot of extra nutrients coming from the wetland or marshy area. So I have some paper towel for us to wipe our hands with.
Oh, that takes the fun out of this.
Well, you don't have to. You're more than welcome to keep your hands all gritty. Just rip hard.
That's what I got pant legs for.
Too hard. Too much. That's okay.
Thank you.
You gonna dust it off on your pants like a true soil scientist?
These are my soil pants. I'm not even.
These are Carhartt. Don't handle it.
He has soil pants. Did you hear that? We should have worn your car.
There you go.
Okay, we're gonna put your glove back on and then we'll just throw them in the washing machine.
Yeah, we're gonna play with more. What would be the fun in that if we didn't go play with more?
I don't know.
So
I'm
let's
gonna
you guys
stick mine in my
get
pocket for emergency.
Jess is walking around with a bag so we can throw our trash in there.
I got it. It's safe to just go.
They were long.
I wonder what
Nice.
Like your foot.
that means.
All right.
We're gonna start walking.
So
It has to be.
we're gonna move to our next step. As we do that, I would like you to count every breath you make. 1, 2. So as we walk, I want you to keep track of how many breaths you make, okay? 24.
160 because I exhaled every time I counted.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's a lot of counting.
At 36.
36. Anyone else? Did you get it?
Did what?
Did you count your breath?
Oh, I was at 40 before I passed out.
Oh, wow. Oops, sorry. All right. So when we take a breath out, we release something in the air that goes somewhere. Where do we think it goes?
Into the plant so they can use it to make their food.
Yeah, good job. So, if I can find my helpful image. Anyone know what this is? Do you know what this is?
A car and gasoline pump and a
Yeah.
human holding it.
Yeah. Has anyone ever done this before? Yeah. So, when we breathe out, we're releasing something called carbon dioxide. That is like fuel for the plants. They take in that fuel and send it to their roots. Just like how when we put gas in our car, it goes to our engine. What does that gas help our car do? Move.
Get energy.
Yeah, it basically makes our car work, right? So our plants, they take in what we breathe out, suck it in just like how when we put gas in our car. It's free for them. Unfortunately, we have to pay for it. Wouldn't that be nice if we didn't and it was free just like the plants get it for free? But not how that works. But they take in that fuel that goes to their engine. What do you think their engine is? Anyone else know what their engine might be? Anyone? Do you know what it is?
The soil?
Yeah, and the roots. So that's basically the engine of the plant. So they process that fuel, they send it to their roots. Their roots send that out into the soil as new nutrients. The plant takes up those nutrients, and it's also taken up by our little friends. Does anyone remember our little friends from before? Yeah, worms! We also got some snails, some slugs. I'm not a huge fan of slugs. Honestly, I'm kind of afraid of them. And we got some different other little pill bugs going on, a millipede, lots of different little guys. They take in all of those nutrients that our plants process and send back to our soil. So, our soil is super important at recycling things that we don't need. Recycles the plant waste and it recycles our air waste, our carbon dioxide. what are some things while we were counting, if anybody could focus on 2 things at once? I don't know if you could handle that if you were too busy passing out. Just saying, did anybody notice any changes in the habitat? Anything changes around us from where we were before? We're kind of here now. How is that different than where we were before? Yeah?
More hardwood here.
Yeah, so we kind of moved away from the wetland. We kind of went deeper into the woods. So, we're going to take a look at the soil for that then. Does someone want to help me probe the soil? Come on. So we're going to brush away that top stuff. There you go. Good job. Brush it away with your foot. And then what you're going to do is you're going to push straight down. Why don't you turn around so everyone can see you do it. Push straight down. Real hard, real hard. Keep going. Good job. And then twist it in a circle. You can move in a circle too if that's easy. There you go. Good job. And then we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Awesome. And then you can kind of wipe away that. Good job. You want to show everybody? Yay! Wow. Good job. Awesome. Thank you. So let's bring it a little closer. See how it's different than before. We have a lot less color than the soil we looked at the last spot. Yeah.
It's actually an E-layer.
There's the man with the soil.
I'm a soil.
Yeah, so this is that dark stuff, but here we actually, does anyone remember what our earthworm layer was? Our E layer. So you see how we got this light strip right here? How it's kind of short, it's real skinny. See how this is a lot bigger? And this is a lot bigger? We got that little skinny bit. See how it's super skinny? Yeah. And we didn't have that in the last one. We skipped that and it was all just this red stuff. See how it's nice and skinny?
Is that the eel?
It's this gray part right here. So see how it's lighter, like a light gray here? There you go. Alright, so now we're gonna go back to taking our grape size amount. A grape, not a pineapple. You want to play? No?
I got it.
Yeah, you guys can do it together. You can have a large grape. You're sharing still? It's okay.
It's like finest.
Not really
No, this is all like pretty much
I never let anything go.
I have 5 sisters. There's nothing new.
All right. How is it different than the stuff we looked at before? The color's a lot different, yeah.
It's lighter color
Yeah,
and more grass.
yeah. So this one that we're gonna do, we're gonna see what texture it is here. So we're gonna need a squirt of water again. We'll have a squirt for you. Do you want some? Yeah, you're good.
I feel it. I'm just use my spoon.
It's definitely pretty.
That's why when I did this and it stays.
It's definitely sandy.
Definitely sandy. All right. So this one, we're gonna make a ball. Toss your ball and catch it. Did your ball break?
You like the mud bath.
Yeah, I see that. You're just going for it. You just want to have the dirt. And then rub it between your fingers. What are we thinking this one's made of? Is it gritty? Or is it slimy?
It's kind of slimy.
Think it's kind of slimy?
I think it's kind of gritty.
I think it's kind of gritty.
Try rubbing it like more on your finger to kind of get a better feel. Because if it's super wet and like in feeling it a ball, it might feel a little bit more slimy. But if you kind of just rub like some of that excess, yeah, like rub your fingers together. Do they feel kind of like they have like crunchy stuff on them? Like if you were to get like sugar on your hands, maybe?
Oh yeah.
Do you ever spill the sugar when you're cooking?
Right?
Never, never.
Think about cake.
Oh, yeah.
Think about me doing it now.
So this one's more gritty. This is because this soil has a ton of sand in it. So we've kind of figured out that this one was a little different in color and it was more gritty. We've moved into the woods more. We got away from the wetland. So we lost some of that bright color that we used to see. So I'm gonna pass out some more paper towel. Rip it.
Oh gosh, me again. Sorry.
It's okay. This time I only use one hand, so only one hand to get cold.
Good. Oh, yeah, never fold it all.
No, the dirt. The dirt's dirty. No, it's cold.
You guys went for the natural paper.
I got my own, I did from last night.
Good thinking. So now we've learned a little bit about how our soil gets rid of different types of waste, whether it's the leaves on top, the air that we breathe out. We've kind of learned a little bit about why we need our soil. Now I want us to think about, as we move to our next location, how we can protect our soil. Keep it safe, keep it healthy, so that way it can do its two really important jobs. Because there's nothing else that can do those jobs, so we want to make sure we take care of it. So what did some people think of and how we could protect our soil? Anyone? Everyone have any ideas?
Watering it.
Watering it? Well, yeah, that'll put some nutrients back in it because we need water in there. Anything else?
Keep it from washing away.
Yep,
Keep
help
rooting it.
preventing erosion. Has anyone ever been on a subway?
Nope.
Yeah. So a subway is like an underground train, right? There's all like, you get on one stop. I've been in the Milwaukee one, so you hop on. That one's not super underground, but there's some spots of underground when you get into the city of Chicago. It takes you underground and you pop back up and you're in a new place. Well, soil has its own subway system because it's made of some things called pores. Pores are like little tunnels through the soil that pass nutrients along. So we talked about how our nutrients are made and how they come from breaking down the carbon and how they come from recycling of waste from the plants. Well, those get passed along through the underground subway system in the soil called pore space. So see, we're gonna pretend this is soil because this is super microscopic. You wouldn't be able to see it, but we have all these little holes here. That's like our pores. Passes those nutrients along. It's got those little pores. Does anyone notice this trail right here? What's wrong with it?
There's no gravel on it?
There's no gravel. That might be because it wasn't supposed to be a trail and people made it a trail. What else do we notice?
It's paved with dirt?
Yeah, so we're not seeing all of these plants because when we walk on the ground and walk on it a lot, we squish those pores, which cuts off the nutrients. So see how there's no pore space anymore because we squished it. We walk on it so much we squish those pores so that our nutrients can't travel. So to kind of get a better idea of how that looks like, I'm going to need, if someone wants to help take a soil sample. We're going to take one over here. Right here. So push straight down. There you go. There you go. There you go. Now twist, twist, twist. Pull up. Oh! There you go. Oh, what's up? Got too far downhill, it's too soggy. Push. Push. Do you need help? Do it together. There we go. Now we got through. Twist. Now pull up. Muscles. Good job. There we go. This one's drier now. So here's our little top part. This is on the trail. What people have made. This is what we're looking at. This is, remember what this is? Our awesome layer. How we need that for gardening. That's what we need we stir up for when we grow our plants. So now let's take a look at our awesome layer off of the trail. Do I have someone else who wants to help? You want to help? Let's go with right here. So push straight down. Good job. Keep going. There you go. Now twist, 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 and pull up. Oh, muscles. Good job. Notice how that brown layer is a lot longer. So see how that's a lot longer way off that trail. See, do you remember the one you did? How it was more up here? This one goes way down there. That's because people aren't walking on this part. They're walking on that part. So as you're walking on it, you're compressing those pores, which basically is like chopping off those subways so nutrients can't get passed through. Plants need nutrients to grow. Then when the plant dies, it gets cycled into new nutrients, which makes new soil, which is why we see that super thin A layer because there's no new cycling going through. So how can we protect our soil?
Thick mulch.
Yep. And like in a place like Schmeeckle, something you can remember is to stay on the trails as much as possible. Every time we walk off trails, it's like that trail is man-made by people who don't want to go all the way to the triangle. They're cutting it short, and they've made this pathway over time, which is hurting our A layer. So staying on our trails when we go out hiking, and besides, these ones are a lot nicer because there's gravel and they're a lot easier to walk on, will protect our soil. So we're going to play with our soil one more time. If I can find the bag. Yes. You shouldn't take nature.
Yes, I know I should.
You want some? You want the deer?
No.
I was like,
Isn't it?
And there's some deer over there.
Yeah,
I haven't felt it. Oh, I guess it is pretty soft. I was like on a mission to get enough samples, so I had it for everybody. I was just going. All right.
This is
How do we think this one is different than the one we had before?
it's softer
It's softer, yeah.
and it's more red.
It's more red as opposed to like some more of that orange.
Gray.
You think it's gray?
No, compared to the gray.
Oh, I was like, okay. Yeah, it's.
Oh, look, a deer.
He's like skirting on out of there. All right, so it's a little bit more. We're getting a little bit more. You said red, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or did you say orange?
I said red.
Red, yeah. So this one's a little bit more red. I've heard that it's a little bit more soft. So let's find out.
It feels pretty.
You just like to get your hands all dirty, huh? This is our last one.
Okay,
So you're ready.
yes.
I'm good. I just dropped some.
You didn't drop it in the wrong place, did you? Oh my goodness.
We're gonna have to kick her on out. She's done. Booter.
Yes. It was nice seeing you. Come back when you can't stay so long.
So what are we thinking? How do we think this one feels?
It feels more like sugar than more like clay.
Yeah. What else? How can we describe it? You said it feels more like sugar, so that like the little pieces are a little smaller maybe?
Yeah.
Little granules are a little smaller here. I think the other one was maybe a little bit more like salt. And this one's a little bit more like sugar size. We got smaller pieces, but does it still feel like sand? Or you think we're working with something else? Would you? What? Yeah? Yeah. So we're working with some more sand, but the granules are a little finer here. There's a lot more turnover happening here with prairie restoration and stuff like that. So we're seeing a lot more cycling through of the soil, but it still does the same thing. Little did you know you were actually getting a mud mask for your hands at the same time. I forgot you guys did this. Do you need some? Oh yeah. I got it this time. I'm ready.
Awesome. I'm like,
No, it's okay. There we go. Put my soil back in my bag. So, we're gonna head back to the pavilion, and as we do that, I'd like us to think about how our soil is important to us, and maybe how we can make some edits on our drawing we made at the beginning. Because we've got that big white space we left behind. So how could we think of soil as important to us? What edits could we maybe make to our drawing to reflect that? Alright, so remember how my purple deer, I got all this white space down here. Why don't we take a minute to kind of do some edits to this blank space, give some attention to what happens below our feet now that we know a little bit more about what's going on under there. A lot of fun colors. And I drew a blue bug because my blue bug is processing a lot of carbon, so he's turned blue. And I drew just some nice brown, thick A layer of soil going on there. Good job. We got some good. There you go. There, you got some of the layers going on, looks like. Good job. What do we got over here? Good job. So it looks like we've all made some really awesome edits to our pictures. We've now learned a little bit more about how soil is a super diverse place with all of the different little microbes in there, all of the different insects and bugs and fungi all living underneath there, and how those things create new soil and how they process our waste of carbon to help plants grow. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. If not, you're welcome to explore Schmeeckle some more. And I hope that after today you guys can have a little bit more appreciation and understanding of what happens below our feet and how it's just as important as above, and how that gives us life and supports the life that we typically know and love when we look around. But there's super cool stuff happening underground. So thank you for coming, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. You're welcome to drop your plants